to the 9K channel hosted by HM9K, and today we're gonna read A Shattered Life. That's right, on the creepypasta site, we're gonna do our first creepypasta story, and it's gonna be narrated by me, obviously. It's got a pretty good rating. It was released pretty recently, July 22nd, 2020, and it's written by Matt Damaski. Alright, it's a YouTube video as well. Credits to the story writer and the video guy, I don't know, but yeah, let's get started with reading this. So sit back, relax, and hope you stay tuned. Alright, I don't know when you're going to read this, but I can tell you when it started. I was out for a walk alone in the woods when the entity came for me. It was beyond a blur. It was, for lack of a better term, absence of meaning. Where it hid, there were no trees. Where it crept closer, there was no grass. For the arc it leapt at me, there was no breeze or motion. There was no air at all. As it struck, I felt the distant sensation of my claws puncturing me somewhere unseen. Somewhere I had never seen or felt before. My hands and arms, my legs, torso seemed fine, and I wasn't bleeding, but I knew I'd been injured somehow. As I fearfully ran back home, I could tell that I was less. I was vaguely tired, and it was hard to focus at times. The solution at the early age was easy. A big cup of coffee helped me feel normal again. For a while, that subtle drain of spirit became lost in the ebb and flow of caffeine in my system. You could say my life, what's it called? Let me reread that. You could say my life began that week. Actually, because that was when I met Ma. She and I got along great. Though, to be honest, I'm pretty sure I fell in love with her over the phone before we even met. Fucking simp. It was almost as if the strong emotions of the first week made the entity fight back. It was still with me, latched on to some invisible part of my being. The first few incidents were minor, and I hardly worried about them. The color of the neighbor's car changed from dark blue to black one morning, and I stared at it before shaking my head and shrugging off the difference. 2 days later, at work, a co-worker named, changed from Fred to Dan. I carefully asked around, but everyone said his name has always been Dan. I figured it was just being mistaken. Then, as ridiculous as it sounds, I was peeing in the bathroom at home when I suddenly found myself on a random street. I was still in my pajamas, pants down, and urinating, but now in full view of dozens of people at the bus stop. Horrified, I pulled up my clothes and ran before someone called the cops. It sounds like the Torah or something. He smoked some shit. Alright, back to the story. I did manage to get home, but the experience forced me to admit that I was still in danger. The entity was doing something to me, and I didn't understand how to fight back. Ma showed up that evening, but she had her own key. Hey, I asked to her confusion. How'd you get that key? She just laughed. You're cute. And you sure know? You're cute. Are you sure you're okay with this? She opened the door and entered a full room of boxes. I know living together is a big step, especially when we've only been dating for 3 months. Living together? I literally just met her the week before. Thing was, my mother had always called me a smart cookie for a reason. I knew when to shut my yap. Instead of causing a scene, I told her everything was fine, and then I went straight to my room and began investigating. My things were just as I had left them, with no sign of 3-month gap in hibernation. But I did find something out of the ordinary. The date. I shivered angrily as I processed the truth. The entity has eaten 3 months of my life. What the hell was I facing? What kind of creature could consume pieces of one's soul like that? I missed the most exciting part of a new relationship and would never understand any shared stories or in-jokes from that period. Something absurdly precious had been taken from me, and I was furious. That fury helped suppress the entity. I've never imbibed alcohol. I drank coffee religiously. I checked the date every time I woke up. For 3 years. I managed to leave each day while observing nothing more than the minor alterations. A social fact here and there. Someone's job. How many kids they had. That sort of thing. The layout of nearby streets. The time my favorite television show aired. That kind of thing. Always. Those changes reminded me the creature still had its claws sunk into my spirit. Not once in 3 years did I let myself zone out. Alright, let me zoom in a bit. Because white text is kind of like annoying. One day I grew careless. I let myself get really into the season final of my favorite show. It was gripping, a fantastic story, right at the height of action. A young boy came up to me, and was it longer, and shook my arm. What? Surprised, I asked, "Who are you? How did you get in here?" He laughed and smiled brightly. "Silly, Daddy." My heart sank in my chest. I knew immediately what had happened. After a few masked questions, I discovered that he was a 2-year-old, and that he was my son. Oh no! And you're still there, what the hell? Alright. If you get the joke, you get the joke. The agony and heartache filled my chest was nearly unbearable. Not only had I missed the birth of my son, I would never see or know the first years of his life. Mars and I had obviously gotten married and started a family in the time I'd lost, and I had no idea what joys or pain those years contained. It was snowing outside. Holding my soda son in my lap, I sat and watched the flakes fall outside. What kind of a life was this going to be if slips in concentration could cost me years? I had to get help. The church had no idea what to do. The priest didn't believe me, and told me I had a health issue rather than some sort of possession. The doctors didn't have a clue. Nothing showed up on their scans and tests, but they happily took my money in return for nothing. By the time I ran out of options, I decided to tell Ma. There was no way to know. This was all from her side, so what was I like when I wasn't there? Did I still take our son to school? Did I still do my job? Clearly, I did, because she seemed to be nothing but wiser. But I still had a horrible feeling that something must have been missing in her life when I wasn't actually home, inside of my own head. But the night I set up a nice dinner in preparation. She arrived not by knocking the door, but by knocking on it. I answered and I found that she was in a nice dress. She happily surprised by the settings on the table. A fancy dinner for a second date? I knew you were sweet on me. Thank the Lord I knew where to keep my mouth shut. If I'd gone about being married and having a son, she might have running for the hills. Instead, I took her coat and sat her down for a second date. Though carefully crafted questions, I managed to deduce the truth. This really was a second date. She saw relief and happiness in me, but interpreted that as jading tears. I was just excited to realize that the entity wasn't necessarily eating whole portions of my life. The symptoms, as I was beginning to understand them, was more like the consequences of a shattered soul. Their style. The creature had wounded me, broken me to pieces. Perhaps I was living my life out of order, but at least I would actually get to live it. And so it went for a few years, from my perspective. While minor changes in politics or geography would happen daily, major shifts in the mental location only happened every couple months. When I found myself in a new place, and a time in my life, I just shut up and listened, making sure to lay of the land before doing anything to avoid making mistakes. On the farthest flung left yet, I met my 6-year-old grandson. I asked him what he wanted to do when he grew up. He said, writer. I told him that was a fun idea. Then I was back in a month or two of my relationship with Ma, and I had the best night with her on the riverfront. When I say the best, I mean the best, knowing how special she would become to me. I asked her to move in. I got to live through what I missed the first go around. This guy's like perfectly calm with all this. I don't know why. Let's just continue. And I came to understand that I was never mentally absent. I would always be there. Eventually, when we were moving her boxes in, she stopped for a moment and she marveled at the great love. As if, I'd known her for a long time and never doubted she was the one. That was the first time I would truly laugh freely and wholeheartedly since the entity had wounded me. She was right about my love for her, but for exact reason she considered a silly romantic analogy. I had known her for my whole life, and I'd come to terms with my situation and found peace of it. It was so bad I had to sneak peeks at the best parts ahead. But of course, I wouldn't be writing if I hadn't got any worse. The entity was still with me, he had not wounded me and departed like I would wanted to believe. The closest I can describe my growing understanding was that the creature was burrowing deeper into my psyche. Fracturing, was it psyche, was it seek? I don't know. Fracturing into smaller pieces. Instead of months between major shifts, I began having only weeks. Once I noticed that trend, I feared my ultimate fate jump times, heartbeat by heartbeat. Forever confused, forever for lost. Only an instant in each time meant I would never be able to speak with anyone else, never be able to hold a conversation, never express or receive love. As the true depth of fear came upon me, I signed an older version of me and I watched the snowflakes fall outside. That was one constant in my life. Whoever didn't care who I was or what pains I had to face, nature was always there. The falling snow was always like a little hook that kept me in place. The pure emotional peace it brought was like beneath, I don't know, on the metal wounds. And I never yet shifted while watching the pattern of the falling white and thinking of the times I'd gone sledding or built a snowfort as a child. A teenager touched my arm. Grandpa? Yeah? He startled me out of my thoughts, so I was less careful than usual. Who are you? He half grinned, as if not sure whether I was joking. Handing me a stack of papers, he said, "It's my first attempt at a novel. Would you read it and tell me what you think?" Ah, of course. Pursuing that dream of being a writer, I say. He burned bright red. Trying to, anyway. Alright, run off. I'll read this right now. The words were blurry and annoyed. I looked for glasses I probably had for reading. Being old was terrible. I wanted to leap back into a younger year, but not before I read his book. I found my glasses in a sweat bucket and began leafing through. Ma put it in and out of the living room, still beautiful, but I had to focus. I didn't know how much time I would have there. It seems that we had relatives over. Was it Christmas? A pair of adults and a couple kids I didn't recognize tromped through the hallway, and I saw my son, now an adult, walk by with his wife on the way out of the door. As a group, the extended family began sliding outside. Finally, I finished reading the story, and I called out for my grandson. He rushed down the stairs and into the living room. How was it? Well, it was terrible, I told him truthfully, but it's terrible for all the right reasons. You're still a young man, so your character behaves like normal people, but the structure of the story itself is very solid. I paused. I didn't expect it to turn out to be a horror story. He nodded. It's a reflection of the times. Exceptions for the truth are dismal, not hopeful like they used to be. You're far too young to be aware of that, I told him. An idea occurred to me. If you're going into horror, do you know anything about strange creatures? Sure, I read everything I can. I love it. Waringly, I scanned the entrances of the living room. Everyone was busy outside. For the first time, I opened up to someone in my life about what I was experiencing. In hushed tones, I told him about my fragmented conscience. For a teenager, he took it well. You serious? Yeah. He donned the determined look of a grown man accepting a quest. I'll look into it, see what I can find out. You should start writing down everything you experience, build some data. Maybe we could map your psychic wound. Wow, sounds like a plan. I was surprised. That makes sense. I hadn't expected him to have a serious response. But how will I get all the notes in one place? Let's come up with somewhere for you to leave them, he said, frowning with thought. Then I'll get them. Then we can trace the path you're taking through your own life. See if there's a pattern. For the first time since the situation had gotten worse, I felt hope again. How about under the stairs? Nobody ever goes under there. Sure. He turns and leaves the room. I peered after him. I heard him banging around near the stairs. Finally, he returned with a box, laid on the carpet, and opened it, revealing a bursting stack of papers. He exclaimed, "Holy crap!" But of course, being a teenager, he didn't really say crap. Taken aback, I blinked rapidly, forgiving his cussing before the shop. Did I write those? He looked up at me with wonder. Yeah, or will. You still have to write them and put them under the stairs after this. He gazed back down at the papers, then covered the box. So you probably shouldn't see what they say. That could get weird. That much I understood, right? He gulped. Okay, there are like 50 boxes in here, all fouled up like this. Deciphering these will take a very long time. His tone dropped to deadly seriousness. But I will save you, Grandpa, because I don't think anyone else can. Tears flowed down my cheeks then, and I couldn't help but sob once or twice. I hadn't realized how lonely I'd become in shifting prison of awareness, until I finally had someone who understood. Thank you. Thank you so much. And then I was young again, and at work on a random Tuesday. Once the sadness and relief faded, anger and determination replaced them. After I finished work, I grabbed some paper and began writing. While the weeks shifted around me, while those weeks became days and then hours, I wrote every single spare moment about when I was for what I was. What the fuck did I even read? I wrote every single spare moment about when and where I thought I was. Okay, yeah, I was right. Okay, I put them under the stairs out of order. My first box was actually the 13th, and my last box was the first. Once I had over 50 boxes written from my perspective, and once my shifting became a matter of minutes. I knew it was all up to my grandson to take it from there. I put my head down and stopped looking. I couldn't stand the river of changing awareness any longer. Names and places and dates and jobs and colours and people were all wrong and different. I'd never been older. I sat watching the snowfall. A man of at least 30 that I vaguely recognized entered the room. Come on. I think I finally figured it out. I was so frail that moving was painful. Are you him? Are you my grandson? Yes. He took me to the room filled with strange equipment and sat me in a rubber chair facing a large mirror twice the height of a man. The pattern finally revealed itself. How long have you worked on this? I asked him. I gasped. Tell me you didn't miss your life like I'm missing mine. His expression was both stone cold and furiously resolute. It'll be worth it. He brought me 2 thin metal rods close to my arm and then nodded at the mirror. Look, this shock is carefully calibrated. The electric zap from his device was startling, but not painful. In the mirror, I saw a rapid arching light silhouette appear above my head and shoulder. The electricity moved through the creature like a wave, briefly revealing the terrible nature of what was happening to me. A bulging leech-like mouth was wrapped around the back of my head, coming down to my eyebrows and touching each ear, and a slug-like body ran all over my shoulders and into my very soul. It was a parasite, and it was feeding on my mind. My now adult grandson had held out as I took out into the horror. After a moment, he asked, moving it is going to hurt very badly. Are you up for this? Fearful, I asked, is Ma here? His face softened. No, not for a few years now. I could tell from his reaction what had happened, but I didn't want it to be true. How? We have this conversation a lot, he responded. Are you sure you want to know? It never makes you feel better. Tears brimmed in my eyes. Then I don't care if it hurts, or if I die. I don't want to stay in a time where she is not alive. He made a sympathetic noise of understanding and then returned to his machine to hook several wires, diodes, and other bits of technology to my limbs and foreheads. While he did so, he talked. I've worked for 2 decades to figure this out, and had a ton of help from other researchers of the occult. This parasite doesn't technically exist in our plane. It's one of the lesser spawns of whatever that word is, and it feeds on the plexus of mind, soul, and quantum conscious reality. When details like names and colors of objects change, you aren't going crazy. The web of your existence was merely losing strands as the creature ate it away from you. I didn't fully understand. I looked up in confusion as he placed this what's called circlet of electronics like a crown on top of my head, in exact line with where the parasite's mouth had ringed me. What? Okay, let's replace that word with kilowatt, okay? What's kilowatt? He paused his work and grew pale. I forgot that you wouldn't know. You're lucky, believe me. After a deep breath, he began moving again, and placed his fingers near a few switches. Ready? This is carefully tuned to make your nervous system extremely unappetizing to the parasite, but it's basically electroshock therapy. I could still see Ma smile, even though she was dead. It's just been with her moments ago. Do it. Do it. The click of a switch echoed in my ears, and I almost laughed at how mild the electricity was. It didn't feel like anything, at least at first. Then I saw the mirror shaking and my body within the image convulsing. Oh no, it did hurt. Nothing had ever been more painful. It was just so excruciating that my mind had been able to immediately process it. As my vision shook and fire burned in every nerve of my body, I could see the reflected trembling light silhouette with a parasite on my head as it writhed in agony equal to mine. It had claws, 6 clawed lizard-like limbs under its leech-like body, and it cut into me in an attempt to stay latched on. The electricity made my memories flare. Ma's smile was foremost, lit brightly in front of a warm fire as the snow fell past the window behind her. The edges of that memory began lighting up, and I realized that my life was the one continuous stretch of experience. It was only the awareness of what that had been fragmented by that feasting evil on my back. I never managed to get there from the birth of my son. I jumped around it a dozen times, but never actually lived it. For the first time, I got to hold Ma's hand and be there for her. No. No! That moment had shifted seamlessly into holding her hand as she lay in the hospital bed for a very different reason. Not this. God, why? It was so merciless to remember this. I broke down in tears as a nurse rushes into the room. I didn't want to know. I didn't want to experience it. I'd seen all the good parts, but I hadn't wanted this worst part. The inevitable end that all would one day face. It wasn't worth it. It was tainted. All that joy was given back 10,000-fold as pain. The fire in my body and my brain surged to sheer white torture, and I screamed. My scream faded into a surprise shout as the machines, electricity, and chair faded away. Snow was no longer falling around my life. I was out in the woods on a bright summer day. Oh God. I turned to see the creature approaching me. It was the same absence of meaning, the same blank unreality. It crept forward, just like before, but this time he hissed and turned away. I stood, astounded at being young again and free from a parasite. My grandson had actually done it. He'd made me an unappetizing meal, so the predator of mind and soul had moved on in search for a different snack. So basically someone else is gonna die now because of him. Nice. I returned home in daze, and while I was sitting there, processing all that had happened, the phone rang. I looked at it in awe and sadness. I knew who it was. It was Marjorie, calling for the first time for some trivial reason she'd admit 30 years later was made up just to talk to me. But all I could see was her lying in the hospital bed dying. It was going to end in unspeakable pain and loneliness. I would become an old man, left to sit by myself in an empty house, his soulmate gone long before him. At the end of it all, it was only one thing I have left, sitting and watching the falling snow. But now, thanks to my grandson, I would also have my memories. It would be a wild ride no matter how it ended. On a sudden impulse, I picked up the phone with a smile. I asked, "Hey, who's this?" Even though I already knew. And that's the end of the creepypasta by Matt Damaski, The Shattered Life. It was a pretty good read, I'm not gonna lie. Alright. Now that we've read that, on to the next one. And we're back with the new creepypasta, which is titled Water Puppet. Came out in December 29th, 2019. Has a pretty good rating of 8.25. Written by Emma Fromm. Got some nice art. Don't know if it was drawn by her, but it's pretty good. Anyways, let's get started with the story. Creepypasta, if you will. Some people call me a hero. I can't disagree with them, because it's actually kind of true. Believe it or not, I've saved a drowning man, pulled a girl from a burning building, and I even saved a dog from being swept away by a nasty flood. My friends thought I was crazy, but I just thought I was just exercising my humanity. That, and I was kind of an adrenaline junkie. It was my guilty pleasure. I've been skydiving and bungee jumping on more than one occasion. I've jumped off the ledge of a huge waterfall, hoping that I didn't hit shallow water. I've got a couple of scars to show for my endeavours. I don't really do adventurous things, but I'm used to it anymore. Not after what happened. If I like to be better. Oh, okay, spooky red. Calm down, buddy. About 7 years ago, a couple of friends and I were just heading out for a New Year's party. It was freezing outside. We had to walk 6 blocks to get back to our dorms. We all started walking, dreading the next 20 minutes of or so of minus 20-degree weather. Don't know if that's American, Fahrenheit or some shit, I don't know. It's sounding pretty bad. Alright, let's go. It's better. Hey, wait a minute, Jared said in his drunken stammer. It'd be faster if we go through the park. We all took a moment to think about it. The city made it a point to close the park down for some reason. Something about there being too many hazards, like falling trees or drowning in the pond. Michelle cringed at the thought of walking through knocked Alpha Cemetery. Jared and Alyssa and I chuckled at her. The cold wind blew and strung my cheeks. It would save us an extra 18 minutes, so we decided to go through the park. We quickly made our way to the entrance, hoping the gate and started working. Dude, how am I fucking up the sentences right now? Is that late? Okay, let me start that again. We quickly made our way to the entrance, hoping... We quickly made our way to the entrance, hopped the gate, and started walking. It was quite beautiful at 2 in the morning. The lights from the moon glistened off the frost that clung to the tree branches. I remembered walking through this park with my parents as a child, walking by the pond in the summertime to see tourists in their rented boats enjoying the day. I was kind of excited to see what the pond would look like in the moonlight. It had been so long since I'd seen it, let alone in the middle of the winter and in the day of night. It would have been a very peaceful walk if Michelle and Jared weren't rambling on about who could drink more and not puke all over everybody. Since Alyssa and I were the two most sober people of the group, we held them up and made sure they didn't slip on the path and crack their heads open. We approached the pond. Fuck, I forgot to highlight it. We approached the pond and it looked absolutely stunning in the moonlight. Even better than I remembered. We all stopped to take in the beautiful view when Michelle noticed something. "What the hell is that?" she cried. Was it queered? I don't know. Pointed to something out on the ice. We all looked closely and saw something that I'm pretty sure made all the hearts jump in our throats. A little girl stuck out in the frozen wasteland. In a panic, we immediately ran towards the water edge, cell phones at the ready. Alyssa was the first to get anybody on the line. She frantically told the officer what was going on. All the while, the girl was just standing there, not moving, not shouting out for help. "Are you okay?" I shouted, cupped my hands around my mouth to amplify my voice. That doesn't really work, but you do you, buddy. She still stood there in silence. While we panicked on the shoreline, I heard something. Something faint, but noticeable. I told everyone to be quiet and listen. I cupped my ear with my hand and listened in the direction of the girl. I couldn't quite out what the sound was, then it hit me. "The ice is breaking," I said. Someone had to go out there and get her now. My friends paced back and forth, wondering what to do now. If they weren't going to act on it, I was. I took a couple of deep breaths, braced myself, and then cautiously stepped out onto the ice. My trio of friends stopped pacing and saw that I was going out onto the pond. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" Jared asked, in a somewhat shocked manner. "Don't go out there, please. Just wait until the police get here." Alyssa beckoned. But I couldn't wait. If I did, she would fall through. The adrenaline was really flowing now. I couldn't help but smile just a little bit and let out a nervous chuckle. I tried to walk as fast as I could, but it seemed like I wasn't going fast enough. I tried to keep calm and proceeded to step cautiously. My eyes were fixated on the ice below my feet. "Wow, you really are quite the crazy individual, aren't you?" I muttered under my breath. I heard it crack again. The goofy grin I wore suddenly vanished. I stopped for a second, only to notice that the ice wasn't cracking below me. I just sped up just a little bit more, still watching the ice, making sure that I didn't make it crack in the process. As I got closer, I looked up and saw the girl was a little more definition. She was so pale, almost as white as the snow. I thought maybe it was a trick of the light from the moon, but it looked like she was shining. It looked like she was covered with ice or frost or something. I questioned whether or not if she was alive at this point, but then how else would she be standing on the ice? I asked myself. Just then, she let out a noise, something that was barely audible, but nevertheless a noise. I tore off my jacket and extended the warm article of clothing, hoping she would take it. Don't worry, sweetie. Everything's going to be alright. Dude, she's gonna fucking like kill him or some shit. Sound like the Grudge girl. What a fucking retard. Either way, I said reassuringly. I was almost close enough to put a jacket on her, and that's when I noticed something that made me stop dead in my tracks. Alright, she wasn't standing on ice. There was a patch of ice that I failed to see before, right behind her, that was broken. There was something protruding from the frigid water holding her up. This pale, grey, spiked tentacle. My eyes widened as it squeezed her. That's when I came to the realization that it wasn't the ice that was about to break. When I heard her ribs snap and a wet gurgle escape her mouth as it squeezed her, blood dripped from her mouth and from the wounds that Spike had made her in her torso, I looked down at the gaping hole in the ice. To this day, I still don't know what the hell I saw. It was this pale grey thing covered head to toe with pitch black veins and jagged spikes covered its entire body. It had these huge crimson eyes bordered in black, and when it smiled, I saw two sets of rotted yellow fangs. I dropped my jacket. I could hear my heart pounding louder and louder. I wanted to run, but my feet wouldn't allow me. The corpse of the dead girl was suddenly pulled through the hole that the creature had made, and I saw it swim off. My eyes darted back and forth across the ice, wondering where it went. It didn't even dawn on me that my friends were halfway across the ice when I saw them making their way towards me. I tried to yell at them. I tried to tell them to run, but all that came out was this pathetic whimper. They called my name, pleading that I hurry and come to the shore with them before I fall through the ice too. I pushed past my fear and made my feet move. I ran as fast as I could, trying not to step on the ice. Run! Get the hell off the ice, I warned them. They extended their hands to me and started walking my way again. Come on, hurry up, Jared had yelled back. Just go, get off the ice now, I hollered back, desperately pleading for them to run. Just then, I felt cold water and a jagged edge at my ankle. I fell and bumped my head on the cold surface. Before I knew it, I was being pulled into the icy depths of the pond. When my body was submerged in the water, it felt like 1,000 daggers cut into my skin. When the water hit my eyes, I thought the liquid inside was going to freeze. I immediately closed them. I tried not to scream from the pain. I had to conserve my air. But then, I felt a tentacle cut into my ankle, and another tentacle reach around my shoulder and squeeze. It kept pulling and pulling. It dislocated my shoulder. I couldn't do it anymore, I screamed, letting out almost all of my air. I thrashed, trying to break free. That only caused its spikes to cut deeper, allowing the frigid water to freeze my bloodstream even faster. I felt the warm tears behind my eyelids and the burning in my lungs. I tried to scream one last time, beside choking me with its tentacle. The spikes tore into my throat and I opened my eyes again. Then I saw it. Those red eyes looked even more menacing now that it was up close. It wore a sinister smile as it licked in my face. I started to feel lightheaded. This was the end. No, I thought to myself. I am not dying like this. I pushed past the pain in my shoulder, raised my hands to its mouth, and started widening its jaw. It squirmed, trying to shake me. I felt the tentacles loosen, and its teeth cut into my hands. I looked up and saw 3 hands submerged in the water. I was so exhausted by that point, but I had to keep fighting. I kicked, I squirmed, and I did what I had to in order to free myself. I used more force on its jaw, and I felt it crack. It let out this god-awful screech, let me go, and swam off into the cold darkness below. I could feel the water start to enter my lungs. I tried to swim to the surface, but I was just so tired. I was barely able to extend my hand towards my friends. The last thing I remember seeing was the light of the moon before everything went dark. I woke the next morning to the beeping of a heart monitor. I was in the hospital. I was covered with the thickest, warmest blankets ever. I tried to move, but when I did, pain shot through my entire body. My head, shoulder, throat, ankle, everything was just throbbing from the pain. My friends walked into the room, saw that I was awake, and rushed over. They told me that they were able to grab a hold of me, pulled me from the water, and rushed me to the hospital. They then bombarded me with questions pertaining to what pulled me into the water. Trust me, I said very weakly. You don't want to know. Well, are you going to tell the cops what happened? Michelle asked. I decided to just tell the police that I was drunk and felt like doing something adventurous. Cause let's face it, would they seriously believe me if I told them some water monster lured me out there and tried to kill me? Yeah, given the right state of mind, I wouldn't fall for that either. Needless to say, I don't partake in any more heroic acts. I also haven't been anywhere near that water since. I've obtained a phobia of it, as you can well imagine. After college, my friends and I went our separate ways, did our own things. I have a family now, and so does Alyssa. We get together sometimes for play dates and memorize about old times. Some parts are left out. It doesn't really matter though. I still have nightmares about that night. That thing under the ice. It's crimson eyes. I always tell myself that it was happened a long time ago, and I try to put it behind me. It usually helps. Up until 2 weeks ago. Alyssa had taken her boys, my son, and my daughter ice skating. She took them to her late father's house by the lake. It was just them there. When she brought them home, my son said something that sent a chill up my spine. He said that he saw a very pale girl standing on the ice, and by her feet was a pale grey bump with 2 red dots. Ooh, scary. And this story was by Emma Froh. Oh, 1992 to 2014. Oh, the story is preserved. Oh, okay. Yeah, that was pretty good. Let's see the comments. Let's see what people thought about this creepypasta. Good story, but I feel like it shouldn't have ended at its Crimson Eyes. Did it actually end at Crimson Eyes? Wait, didn't. It ended at Red Eyes, but whatever, buddy. Maybe. It was just a red kraken from Batman. Ha ha ha, good one. Okay, that was the comments, I guess. Can I say something? Wait, HM9K. Pretty good. Go check out the 9K channel. I made a video on it. Boom, send. Cool. It's like my own comment because that's cool. Alright, well that was the Water Puppet by Emma Froh. We can probably do one more. Well, on to the next one, Jump Cut. Alright, and we are back with The Face That Watches. Came out in October 19th, 2012. Ratings pretty good. The author is, well, I don't know, maybe it's at the end, but yeah, let's get started. There was a strange, okay, let me highlight it first. There was a strange face in the woods outside my window. Mom and Dad won't listen though. It stares and stares. Little brother hates hearing it about it. He thinks it is meant to scare him. The story about the man with no face. The face watches me all hours of the night and day. Big sister says that it's all lies. She says that Mom and Dad should call in head doctors. It doesn't matter how many times I tell them about him. The man in the dark. No one listens. I don't like when Mom says I have to play outside, because I have to be close to him. He is too tall. He is too thin. Like, he doesn't eat. The man doesn't move when he watches me. He just makes me cold. Makes it so I can't run. I don't like when he is around, and I think I should stay away from the fence. I don't think this kid likes anything. He needs to shut the fuck up. Or at least we can tell this is from the kid's perspective. It's kind of fucking retarded though. Bad storytelling, because he's being really repetitive for the words and shit. It's kind of annoying, but let's continue. I have nothing against Yofo, by the way, but it's just, you know, a full criticism, if you will. Mom has to drag me inside for dinner because I can't stop staring. She's angry at me for being out so late and cold. Can't she see him? The tall man that is now standing in our yard? Fuck. After dinner tonight, Mom is making me sit in my room. No TV, because I didn't come when she called. I sit at my desk for my work, trying to finish it before Dad comes in to check, when I see him standing in the yard. The man without a face. The tall man, standing too close to my window. You missed out the second note, buddy. But whatever. You missed out a lot of things, but I'm not really into that right now. He's always there now, even when I point him out to Mom and Dad. I don't know why they can't see him. My dreams are full of him now. He's rent-free, basically, in your head. Faggot. He's standing in the background as I do real magic for my friends. He stands in my dreams, watching. I've told him to leave me alone, but only in my dreams. Mom called the doctor that day. She says I am very sick. I keep coughing up blood and I can't sleep. She says I'm not eating very much. She tells him of the tall man I see, but I don't think it matters anymore. The doctor says I will need to go to hospital. He says that maybe something is wrong with my brain, and I will need scans. The coughing is bad now. It hurts a lot. The tall man is still watching. Mom sits with me in the night time to make sure I am okay. She asks me, what am I humming? And I can't tell her. I don't know the words. I don't even know I was humming. She tucks me in and kisses my head. The tall man isn't outside my window anymore. He hasn't been there for a whole day. But he is still in my dreams, his long, long arms reaching for me. The music is loud in my ears. I can see Mum reading to me. Her lips are moving, but the music is so loud. I cough and cough. Lots of blood came out this time. She sits on the end of my bed staring at me, waiting for it to stop. But it doesn't. I wish it would help because I need to tell her something. The tall man isn't outside the window anymore. The tall man isn't in the yard. He isn't even in the woods. The coughing is too much and I feel like I'm falling asleep. I try to figure it very hard because I need Mommy to know. The tall man is in the corner now. He is in my room. Okay, this is the author, I guess, Mara. In my opinion, that was probably the worst one I read. Wasn't scary at all. Sounds like a bootleg Slenderman, but I guess a less dickbag version, since Slenderman just fucking kills you for touching a note of his. He's hiding the truth, you know. There's a lot of Slenderman lore. There is no actual canon lore. The guy who wrote it was like, okay, fuck you guys, I'm just trying to make a cool game. Cool creepypasta. But everyone took it seriously, you know. Let's see some comments. Best I've read so far. Not scary, but still good. Not scary is true. Everything else, fuck off. Wait, people think this is real, dude. There's no way. There's no way. Such a sender story. It's of course this guy W. Let me give that guy a like. That is a W. This is W. No way. People think this is real. There's no way. Stop. That is too good. Don't write. Oh fuck. And 2025. Alright, let's send that real quick. Let's give that a like. You already know. Woohoo, your comment has been posted, but wait. See what your comments are. Dude, I don't care. Either way, that's the end of the creepypasta episode 1. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I managed to get 3 or 4 in. I think 3. I'm saying 4 because it sounds like there's more. If you liked it, like the video. If you disliked it, you already know what to do, buddy, because it doesn't matter to me. Write in the comments if you want to, if you want me to continue this series. But remember this, I don't care what you think. If I'm gonna make a second episode, I'm gonna make a second episode. And if I stop, I stop. There you go. Either way, that was HM9K hosting the 9K channel once again. I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.
Sorry, I don't speak Italian.